It is 8:10 Newstalk Sauga 960 Raw. Mike Richards on a Wednesday, which means, as you know, it is all about the Toronto Arrows and Arrows Up. And each week we find out many new ways that Mark Winokur can be slighted by teammates, ownership, those that work with him, neighbors. I think at times are lobbing in uh, insights and insults for this man. But you only do it because you love him. And we love our Toronto Arrows. And this week, now, uh, does anyone call you Rodin? Or no one calls you Rodin Lozada. No one says this. Is that correct?
The people at work.
People work and police. Yes. So, but the name is and the name is Koko, much beloved. And thank you so much for joining us this morning because we just love this segment. We really do.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me on.
Now, you have an interesting background as as we find out. And again, this is the cool thing about finding out the players, the history of the players. We know the team itself new into Major League Rugby, but it seems like the genesis of it, Koko, seems to be around the Ontario Blues, which of course you had a significant part of that.
Yeah, I was when the Blues was first formed in 2009. I got brought on as the performance and video analyst for the team, and I was with the program all the way through until Bill Webb approached Mark and formed the Arrows. And when they were bringing the staff together, they just asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, and I agreed. And I thought it'd be a great adventure.
Now, just so people understand, in terms of the coaching staff, when you start talking about a performance analyst, how would you describe that to those watching and listening here this morning?
Probably the best way to describe what I do is I really have two jobs. One, I'm the video coordinator, so I get all the video of the games and practices, and I cut it up and I put it into segments that the players and the coaches can easily watch instead of watching 2 hours of. We break it up so that they can watch specific things. If they want to watch a scrum, I'll break it up so post game they'll ask, I want to see all the scrums, so I hit a button for them, and all you see are the scrums that come up, and that's it. It takes everything out. And the other thing I do is a good chunk of the job is the analytics of the team, where I do all the tracking of our stats during games, and I also do all the tracking for all our opposition, really. So I've got a master database of all the stats that pretty much of every game in the league for the last 2 years.
So Koko, that seems like there's an awful lot there on the table for just one person. Yeah. When you're watching the game itself, and there were 5 games at the beginning of the year, and you guys did really well on the road, during the actual game itself, are you making notes on what you're going to remember for after when you're editing? Because you're not editing during games, are you?
It depends. I've got a team that works under me. There's 3 guys that worked with us this year. I got Matt Raguso, Adam Moz, and James Topping. So they helped me out with this. When we were on the road, it was a little tough because I was the only person that traveled with the team. Yeah. So I would shoot the video because we didn't really trust the league camera feeds.
Yeah,
right.
Every once in a while, I get a shot of some gorgeous-looking blonde in the stand, and you miss it. So we shot our own video, and because and I would do that. But while we were doing that, I was also taking some stats by hand, and those are the stats that some of the coaching staff wanted to see at halftime and throughout the game, and I'd feed that to them as well.
We're in conversation with Koko Lazado here on Newstalk Sauga 960. We are talking Toronto Arrows in the segment called Arrows Up. Now, when you take a look at what this team did to start the year, and I always say that, in most professional levels or very competitive levels, if you have 1 or 2 weeks when you're on the road, especially back-to-back, that would be challenging. But when you start almost the first half of the season on the road and they still only lost 1 game, and even still that game was sort of, it could have gone either way, even to the second half. What are the things in terms of your breakdown of what that team was doing? What were they doing that was so right? What to you as an analyst of this Toronto Arrows team allows them to do what they do, especially when they have to go on the road like that for so long?
I don't think the road thing really bothers us all that much. We're just so used to so much traveling from last year. And even with the Blues program, we did a lot of traveling around the country. So the team was really used to being on the road and playing away. So, and really the attitude the guys took was to, like, it's just a fun time. Let's enjoy each other's company. And they really enjoyed the time away. So, I think a lot of it was the attitude, but the fact that we were also used to it. But in terms of, and I'm going to get all geeky on you guys now.
No, it's good. Good. We want to hear
Bring
it.
So there's like 16 things that we track through all the games for all the teams. And like I said, I track all these, we call them KPIs, key performance indicators. So I track them for all the games. And then every week what we do is we put them in and we do a comparison across the league of all the teams. And of all these KPIs, by the time we hit week 5, which is our last game, we were trending to be first in the league in terms of that statistic in 12. Sorry, we were in 6 of the 16 KPIs. We were first in the league. We were in second in 3 of the KPIs and third in 2 of them. And then of the 16 KPIs, we were top 4 in 12 of the 16 KPIs. I compared that to what San Diego was doing because everybody was talking about San Diego this, San Diego that. They're undefeated. They got all these big names. And everybody was talking about how San Diego was going to be the big game for us this year. Yeah. So we were tracking what San Diego was looking like compared to what we were doing. And just as a comparison, what I do is I also give a number, like a score to all this. Mm-hmm. And the lower the score when it comes to these KPIs, the better. We scored 45 and ranked number 1 in the league in overall KPIs. San Diego ranked second with a score of 89. So we were significantly better in the majority of the KPIs that we were tracking that we think are good indicators of how we're playing. So statistically, when the season ended, which is sad, we were probably statistically the best performing team in the MLR.
Out of the entire league, Koko, do all the teams track like you guys do? Because you guys seem to be the class of the league as we're slowly learning the league. I'm just wondering, does every one of these MLR teams do the same thing as you guys do?
Not to the extent that we do. We probably have the most extensive analysis department.
Yeah, I figured that.
like I said, I've got some people working with me just to help out, just because of the huge amount of work we put into it. Like one person couldn't do it. And I'm really thankful for the guys that do help me out. The other teams, some of them do have their own analysts, but I don't think they do it to the extent that we do it. And I think it's a big edge that it gives us because the information that we gather and we produce really gives our coaching staff a lot of information and data for them to go in and make game plans, make adjustments and things like that.
Well, so let's talk about that. When you start talking about adjustments, so in another sport, I would probably call you a darkroom guy, right? You're a darkroom, you're watching film, you're doing stuff, you're breaking it down. In order to make all that work, so you talk about those KPIs, then are you going to the coaching staff and saying, okay, and let's talk about the things that you'd be the third in the league in. So in order to wanting to be first, how do you convey those kinds of messages? What do you say to the coaching staff? Do you talk about those key or those elements of KPI that you think need improving? Is that kind of how that works?
Yeah, like a good example is our line out in the first game was terrible. And I think we all could admit it. And after the first week, we were probably ranked close to the bottom of the league. And it became pretty obvious that was going to be an area that we were going to have to improve on. So the line-out coach is Aaron Carpenter, and so he would look at the video, he'd look at the data that we produce from the line-out specifically, and he would work on it, put in different formations, different options, change the personnel a little bit, and by the time we ended the season, we'd climb from, I think, we were ranked something like 11th or 12th out of 13 teams. We were then ranked 5th after 5 weeks. So you could see the trajectory that we were really, really improving in that part of our game.
Wow, that's something. Hey, Koko, so your background going into Blues Arrows, you coached in Markham and Oakville. Where does the love for rugby actually start, and did you actually play the game? Because I sense you probably did and caught the bug early in life.
I actually started playing in high school at
okay.
College in North York. And to be honest with you, I had absolutely no desire to play. I was a basketball player. and you saw a couple of the rugby guys wearing the rugby shirts, and I was like, hey, that's kind of cool. I'd like one of those. And so I said to the coach, is there any way I could buy one? And he goes, the only way you can get one is if you play. So I was like, okay, I'll play for a couple of games. I'll get my shirt, then I'll quit. I could go on with the basketball season. And so I went to my first practice, and I got absolutely nailed a couple times and went, I love this, and I just never stopped playing.
Wow.
Yeah, we had just talked about that kind of thing with James Richmond, who's the head coach and general manager of the Mississauga Steelheads, and I talked about wiring. Like, why does someone do what they do? And I said, when it comes to contact sports, people always assume that haven't played it, that it's just the guys who like to go out and hit other guys, which is a part of it, which is absolutely part, but it's also the stuff that comes back the other way. Like when you're wired that way, you don't mind the contact coming the other way. It just kind of spurs you on. If you don't have that, if you can only dish it out but can't take it, this is not a sport for you. Either this or football or hockey. You've got to be able to kind of like it going both ways. So I completely understand what you just said.
It's that rush or that adrenaline rush that you get when you're in, I guess, combat sports. It's hard to describe if you've never been through it.
It's like when you watch UFC and people are like, why would you do that? I heard John Mulaney, who's a very funny stand-up comedian, and he said, what do you think it's like when you tell the other people what you do if you're in mixed martial arts? And they say, so what's your job like? And John Mulaney says, oh, it's terrible. What? Oh, well, every time I go into work, people are punching me in the face and they're kneeing me in the stomach. And they're like, how often does that happen? Every time. Every time. It's like you have to go out and look, the one thing that is and it's part of the culture of rugby. As good as you give, it's sort of also as good as you take. And when the whole thing's over, they're usually somewhere having a pint together, and of course with the Arrows, sometimes it's having a pint with the fans that come out and see him. The culture of rugby is really quite special, and I can hardly wait, and I'm sure you as well, with this great team, to get out and play in the stadium in front of your home fans. That to me was the real crushing element of all of this, even though, look, the world has suffered with a global pandemic, so I'm not going to compare sports to what people have gone through. But the one thing that I think, especially speaking for Dave and myself, I was just dying to see these guys play. I really wanted to see them play at home.
Yeah, it's there's no feeling like playing in front of your home crowd, and the support we got from the fans last year was unbelievable. And you could just, even being on the road for the first 5-6 weeks of the season, you could feel a bit of a buzz in the air about the team. You know, you guys did a great job promoting the team on the radio and just some of the social media stuff and people coming up to us. It was outstanding. It was just a shame that we never got a chance to play in front of the home team, home crowd.
Well, you're going to, and obviously we really want to be a part of it because the individuals, each and every week we understand why this team is so close, and it doesn't matter what part of the world seemingly that they come from, they want to play in Toronto, and in our experience, if that's a destination, if you've made the team a destination, then you've given yourself a chance to create greatness because people want to come here. They want to be here. And the league gets bigger. Now you're going to be adding Dallas and Los Angeles. To me, it's just going down that path like Major League Soccer did. That only bodes well. That's good news for everybody. So, I mean, we're very excited, and I'm sure you are to get at it for next year.
Yeah, well, it's an exciting adventure for us to be involved in the first pro rugby team in Canada, sort of the pro rugby union team in Canada, and really a lot of us we do it for the love of the game. It's great that we are professionals and we do get a little bit of compensation for it, but a lot of us were doing it for free before this, and I think that is what drives all of us.
We'll tell Bill you need more money. I don't have a problem doing that. Like a lot more money. More money.
Bill's easy. It's Winnicrest. So he's
Koko, you were great like everybody else. Thanks so much for joining us here this morning. It's been a real pleasure catching up, and hopefully at some point we'll get to see you soon.
Yeah, I hope to see you guys soon.
That is Koko